So, another day, another god for the OGs. And today we're gonna go with Mani and Thrud, as suggested by Optimus and Gunknir. And you might wonder what is the correlation between Mani and Thrud? Like, would make sense to make Mani and Sol, so the moon and the sun. The thing is, I couldn't pull off Sol the way I wanted to. So, we're gonna go with Mani and we're gonna go with Thrud. And I've chosen you to accompany me today, so I hope you follow along as I make these amulets. And on the way, I'll explain a bit about Thrud and Mani and the symbolism I've incorporated in their designs. So I'll begin with Thrud, who is the daughter of Sif and Thor. And I've made amulets for both of them, so I tried to make Thrud a mix of those two, with her hair being long and full, as both Sif and Thor are mentioned to be rather blessed with hair. And her attire I've taken inspiration from the Thor amulet I've made. She is also shown holding a hammer, but with a longer handle. On the hammerhead I've included an image of a person. This comes from a runestone where it could be interpreted as Jormungandr trying to devour Thor. So I've taken that as a symbol for his father Thor, and this symbolizing the protective nature of a father over his children, especially being overprotective as a father over your daughters, something that is even mentioned in Thor's Trabba, a poem from the 1900s that mentions that Thor is called the one that longs for Thrud, something I can relate to now because I was recently blessed with a daughter too. But let's look into what we know about Thrud a bit. One mention of Thrud comes from Alvismal, which is the song of Alvis, the all-wise, where the god Thor questions Alvis about several things related to Norse mythology. And it begins with Alvis talking about a bride he has and wants to marry, to which Thor answers that a father has the most say over who his daughter marries, and that when the promise was made to Alvis, Thor was not present. This asserts that the bride in question is Thrud, as we don't know of any other daughters of Thor, and so begins a back and forth between Thor and Alvis, as Thor says that he can only marry his daughter if he answers all of his questions. The trick is that Thor questions him for so long that when the sun comes up, Alvis turns into a stone, as he is a dwarf, and they turn into stones in sunlight. Another interesting bit in this story is the mention of another tale where all of the gods, with the absence of Thor, had promised his daughter Thrud to Alvis. My bet is that the gods wanted to get rid of Alvis for one reason or another, and they knew that if Thor's daughter was in danger, then the abductor was really the one in danger. Can't rival the rage of a thunder god. Either way, this is a reminder of the stories we have lost that come from the Viking Age and even times before that. And interestingly enough, there seems to be another forgotten tale involving Thrud, this time involving the Jötun Hrungnir. A kenning for him is Thief of Thrudr, which comes from the oldest known skald Bragi Bodason. And this is believed to originate from or before the 1800s. No other source mentions a connection between Hrungnir and Thrud, so this tale has been lost to time. But the kenning itself tells a lot already. So apparently at some point Thrud was abducted by Hrungnir, similar to how Idun was kidnapped by Thjasse. It is also told that Thor is the one that slays Hrungnir, even though the version that has been passed down to us says Thor slays Hrungnir because the latter was being disruptive in Asgard, the home of the gods, and Thor was having none of this, but it can easily be that the original reason was for kidnapping Thrud, and it changed over time as it was passed from one generation to another. The passing down of oral folklore is a bit like the telephone game, you know. Some things change over time, which then cause further change, and so on. The name of Thrud appears in other places as well. For example, Thor's home is named Thrudvangur, a runestone from Öland mentions a jarl with the name Tree of Thrud, as well as there is a Valkyrie in Valhalla named Thrud. But this is all because Thrud means strength. So these are likely unrelated to Thrud the goddess and daughter of Thor. I don't think it would fly for Thor that his daughter is serving meat to a bunch of knuckleheads fighting 24/7. But because there's two missing stories of Thrud, we can kinda assume from it that she is a rather older character in the Norse mythology pantheon. Moving on to Mani, also known as the moon. Mani, as a god, is mentioned in several surviving literary sources like the Poetic and Prose Eddas. He is said to be the brother of Sol, aka the sun, and it is said that they both are pulled in chariots led by horses. Here and there, they are the ones pulling the chariot where the sun or the moon is in. Then sometimes they are the sun and moon, sometimes they have some other connection to the sun and moon. Here I'm gonna go with that Mani is the moon. And this chariot pulled by a horse carrying the sun or the moon is also depicted on several finds from the ancient times and on petroglyphs. So the tale of these two sky deities and their horses are likely from very ancient times. Another tale says that two wolves by the name Skull and Hatti chase a shining priest and a bright bride of the sky, which have been interpreted as the sun and the moon. The thing is, we don't actually know which is which, so the belief that Hatti chases the moon is equally as valid as Hatti chasing the sun. A little bit of artistic freedom for you over there if you want extra pick-me points. We talked about Alvismal before. There, Thor also questions Alvis about Mani and what other names he goes by, to which Alvis answers that to humans he is Mani, to the gods he is Mulin, aka the fiery one. In Helheim he goes by the name Hverfanda, meaning the turning wheel. To the Jötnar he is known as Hundi, the swift one. To the dwarves he is Hin, the shiner, and the elves know him as Artala, the year counter or the year sayer. Mani is said to have two companions as well in his chariot by the names of Huuuuge and Bil. They are the children of Vidfinner, meaning wood Finn, some kind of Finno-Ugric person. It was once said that his children were taking water from the well Börger, which means the concealer. And as they were walking home, they had a pole in between them, which carried the buckets with the water. Mani saw them and took them from Midgard up to the skies to accompany him, which is visible to us when we look up at the moon. That is how the story recounts it. They are likely a tale for the darker spots on the moon, as there are many tales from Northern European folklore about a human face or pair of humans on the moon carrying logs, suggesting that this legend stems from earlier times of these people, thousands and thousands of years ago perhaps. That is why I've depicted him with carrying these logs in his hands, as an ode to this tale. The parent of both Sol and Mani is Mundilfari, which by the way is also the name of one of Saturn's actual moons, like the planet Saturn. The name likely means something like the one who moves time, because in Old Norse, Mundil means time and Fara means to travel. So the parent of the moon, or Mani, is someone who moves time, and it's fitting, as in the poem Vafthrudnismal, it states that the purpose of the moon is for people to tell time, and he was called, as you remember, for the elves, the time sayer. The word and concept of a month comes from the moon and is based on the moon's cycles. And the first day of the week is Monday, which comes from Mandag, meaning Mani's day. And back then, the beginning of a new day was also when the moon started to rise. Counting the days was based on nights instead of days. For example, in Havamal, Odin recounts how he learned the runes by hanging from a windy tree for 9 long nights. And it is also mentioned by Tacitus that the Germanic people do not count by days like the Romans do, but rather by nights. Night is said to usher in a new day. And before Tacitus, Julius Caesar wrote about the Gauls, an early Celtic people, counted time by nights, not by days. There's even the term nu och nid, meaning a full moon and new moon. And this term nu och nid comes up also in Guta saga, which Guta is the Gotlanders. Gotland is an island off the Swedish east coast. And it was a very prominent part during the Viking age. And in that story in Gutha Saga, this is how the Gotlanders got to stay in the Byzantine Empire forever, as they asked the emperor to stay there for nu och nid, who thought it means 1 month, as coming from a full moon to a new moon. But they meant forever, and who is to say no to a Viking, so they indeed stayed there forever. The same term nu och nid is also used in early laws as a way to measure time. For example, that by the need someone should pay their debt, showing once again the importance of counting time based on the moon and the nights rather than the days and the sun. The tradition of counting time based on the moon and that the moon reels in a new day is also why certain events around Northern Europe have a night before celebration, like Christmas Eve, Midsummer's Eve, and so on. The counting based on the moon or night also survives till today. For example, the English word fortnight means 14 nights, so 2 weeks of time. The moon phases being important parts of the counting of time is also why I've depicted him with 2 faces on either side of his head, representing the waning crescent and the waxing crescent. His attire on the front underneath the hands carrying the logs symbolizes the moon's rough surface, and on his back, on the lower part, are the stars and the beauty of the night sky, with the top part of his cape symbolizing the northern lights painting over the world. And that is all the lore I have on these 2. So now enjoy this little ASMR section of us finishing these 2 up and a little introduction to a new friend, and then we can wrap this video up. And here I would like to introduce you to our new friend, the trummel. I have no clue what this is called in English, but it goes around. There goes like this stainless steel balls in there, and this should help with actually cleaning up the statues. So once I put them in eponol, that's the thing that makes them dark, I put them in the trummel, that will take off most of the eponol, basically what I do with the brush. So this actually, when I need to do many orders, will save a lot of time. So now it's just to polish them off, and then they look properly made from bronze, and they have the signature look that I use. And now, as I do with all of these gods and goddesses, I make a little video for them, like a teaser or so. So let's check this out, and then we will wrap this video up. And that is the whole episode. It's finally a bit cooler here in Northern Europe. It was like 30 degrees for many days. So if my voice in the video is a bit monotone than usually, then that's the reason. So I'm sorry. Hopefully it is watchable. And I'm not sure if you can see it. There is a rowan tree there that is blooming. That we talked about a couple episodes back, I believe. So cool. They have finally started blooming. Also, I hope you like the new Mjolnirs I've made. I checked my collection and I was like, I haven't really made that many Mjolnirs, even though I have so many ideas for them. So I'm starting with this. I will have many more designs to come that I've thought about. But yeah, if there's any like details or so you want to see, let me know down in the comments here or write me on Instagram. And I will try my best to make them happen. But until the next time, you have a very good day or a week or a month or whenever we will see again. All the best to you, and I hope to see you again soon. Peace out.